Friday the 30th of October 2020. On tonight's preview show, we'll be looking ahead to Blackpool's match away at Burton Albion. We'll also be speaking to Burton fan Derek, who will give us an insight into the Brewers. And we'll also be giving a fan a free iFollow pass for the game tomorrow. That and a lot more on the Seasiders podcast.
Ollie's already changed the world. A small town from the north of England with a great tradition.
Yes, good evening and welcome back to the Friday night preview show live on the Seasiders podcast. It's great to have you with us this evening. Blackpool looking to get back to winning ways after defeat on Tuesday night away at AFC Wimbledon. It should be a cracking show if you've heard the introduction, so make sure you join in the chat with all the comments that come in on the usual week, so make sure that happens. And like I said, as one lucky person, we'll be watching the Seasiders for free tomorrow afternoon, so stay tuned for that question. This evening, I am joined by the one and only, and he's on for the fourth time this season already. It's Tom. Tom, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. Obviously, was hoping for a better result on Tuesday, but we'll get into that. But fingers crossed, mate, we can get back to winning ways this weekend. We're also joined by Derek, who is a Burton fan. Derek, it's great to have you on the show this evening.
Evening, guys.
Yes, good evening. Obviously, like I said, nice to have you on. But first of all, I checked your Twitter bio, professional beer and cider taster. I hope that's not your real job, is it?
Well, it was for a period of time, actually. I've done it for Carlsberg and Molson Coors, but it was only a part-time role. But yes, it was. It was my job.
Interesting. I honestly thought it was a bit of a joke, to be fair. So I thought I'd
no,
sneak
honestly,
that one in.
No, there's food tasters, beer tasters, and champagne tasters. So I did the beer bit.
Wow, living the life of luxury there, as it sounds, and many Blackpool fans would enjoy that job. Obviously, a Burton fan, like we do with all our guests that come on the show. Just a little bit of a background of how you got supporting Burton and any memories that stand out to you.
Well, being born and bred in Burton, then the brewing industry is one thing that you follow, and the other thing is follow Burton Albion. I was probably in that kind of age group that we would follow Burton being a non-league club, and then we would have kind of a bigger club, shall we say, that we would follow as well. So we'd have the best of both worlds. Personally, I've supported all the local clubs, Derby, Forest and Burton. So a bit of a follower for the Clough family, shall we say. I used to go to maybe Forest one week and then Burton another week and follow both. But that's going back to our non-league days. And then Nigel came along in 98. And that's when I really started to follow Burton full time. And from then, it's just been what a ride it's been for the last 20 years now. So it's just been fantastic. There's just so many wonderful memories. We keep thinking, this is the highest that Burton will ever get to because we are a small club. We are a family club. We've got 2,000 to 2,500 home fans, and we have to realise exactly kind of our reach where we can be. The Championship was beyond our wildest dream. So one of the memories was being up at Doncaster, a hot May day, absolutely red hot. One of the most boring games that you'll ever want to see. Doncaster gave us the privilege of going down to, I think it was 9 men in the end, and still we're on, biting fingernails because we still could have not gone up automatically at that stage. Just a fantastic occasion. Then we've been to Wembley, and we mentioned Fleetwood earlier when we were chatting. Got beat by Fleetwood 1-0 in the playoff League Two final. And it's when will it ever end for Burton? Because we just keep seeming to come back and take that extra step. And at the moment, we've kind of got a pause, but who knows?
Yeah, I guess any team can really go up to the Championship. And like I said there, was that kind of a dream season being in the second tier of English football?
It certainly was, particularly the first one. And for me, we went to Forest on the first game of the season away at the City Ground, and having supported both clubs, it was just what a game as well. I think it was 4-3 to Forest in the end. There was just goals galore. Everybody was scoring at pretty much every opportunity. So the first year in the Championship was just, going to some of these big clubs that they are traditionally big clubs. We'll mention your Ipswich, people like that, your Villas and places. And then the second year, well, that was an added bonus, fighting to stay up. But at times we were just punching above our weight. We had to. I can remember a game at Huddersfield when, for 95 minutes we pretty much had 10 men behind the ball. We got a breakaway, and Jackson Irvine scored in the 96th minute away at Huddersfield, in their promotional season. So we were punching above our weight. Some of the football wasn't the most attractive, but you've got to deal with what you've got in front of you, and that's the best that we can manage on some games.
Yeah, certainly. We've had a comment here. You'll be able to see it on the screen. Gareth says, tell Derek that he's very lucky having Burton Bridge and Tower breweries on his doorstep. So that one's...
I'm having a Burton Town brewery tonight. So yes, we've got about 8 or 10 micros, as most places have now, plus the couple of big boys.
Yeah, definitely. So keep sipping that away, and I'm sure it'll be a fun show.
Absolutely.
Tom, I'll bring you in here first. We'll get kind of some of the negatives and stuff out of the way first before we move on to the announcement of today. Obviously, a 1-0 defeat on Tuesday away at AC Wimbledon. 13th minute goal from Callum Riley. Blackpool 2 men sent off, Robson first, and then obviously the new centre half, Dan Bollard. What were your thoughts on the game on Tuesday? Any positives for you as well?
The positives, probably the first up to their goal, to be honest with you. We shock horror with Blackpool. We're in control for most of the game, and then we let in a silly goal, and we get punished for not taking our chances. So I think Sully, great free kick in sort of the 8th or 9th minute, and Medin's got a header from literally 6 yards out. Misses an absolute sitter, and from there we didn't create anything until CJ came on. So I haven't got much to say that I haven't already said on the podcast on Tuesday, but it was probably one of the ugliest games we've played this season, and we should have nicked a 1-1 quite comfortably at the end, with Mitchell having the chance of his life and Sully just going wide of the post. But other than Ballard's red card, which I didn't think was a red card personally, I don't think it means any malice at all. He just goes up for a header, but Robson's was a silly tackle and gave the ref no choice, really. You can't complain, and it will never be rescinded. So lack of discipline, lack of direction, lack of sort of any form of philosophy moving forward. And unfortunately, after a win, I expected the complete opposite, but we've discussed 100 times it will take time, and today's news is giving me quite a bit of hope. So I'm looking forward to tomorrow's game and Tuesdays as well, to see what kind of impact Coldwood will have. But it wasn't pretty Tuesday, and it needs to change, as we spoke about on the pod on last Friday.
Do you think some players, Tom, can get a reputation? I mean, we've got JJ O'Toole at Burton, and he picks up more than his fair share of yellow and red cards. And I just, I've seen him go into some tackles, and yes, I'd say that warrants a yellow. But if it's JJ, then it tends to be a red. And yes, he does on occasions, let's say, shouldn't do what he does. But on others, I think he's very harshly treated.
It's a difficult one for me. I think Robson loses the ball. I don't know if you've seen the red card, but he loses the ball and tries to chase it down a couple of yards away from him. And as he goes to chase the ball, he puts in a 1 foot, to be fair, upwards behind him, but it doesn't look nice on first glimpse, and therefore the ref only gets to see that one chance. But Robson's known for crunching tackles and putting himself about a little bit. And I think someone said on Twitter a couple of times that he's probably going to get himself into trouble this season just for the sheer nature of how he plays. So reputation, I don't think Robson has at Blackpool. He's only just signed for us. I'm not really sure. He didn't really play too much for Sunderland, but husband potentially. But he's been sent off twice already this season, and both of them were warranted for ridiculous tackles. So I think players can build their reputations. Whether Blackpool have that yet, I'm not too sure, but I completely get what you mean.
Yeah,
it's an interesting thought, really. I know some teams maybe get that aggressive nature. Maybe you look back a few years to the Crazy Gang and some of the tackles that they put in then. That would definitely won't be tolerated these days. But Tommy, surprised that the Ballard one hasn't been, say, rescinded? I've not seen it in the news, so if it has done, I apologise if I've not.
No, well, I haven't seen it either, but Critchley said we're looking at it. I don't know what that means, but apart from the fact they're looking at it and haven't appealed, so unless they've been told it's not going to be rescinded or got given advice, but for me, you had to appeal it. It was probably, I don't know. reviewing it, you can't say whether it's a red or not. He goes up leaning a little bit, and I know the manager from Wimbledon, if you can hear, one of the benefits of having no fans, you can hear the manager of Wimbledon shout, oi, oi, that's a red, or oi, that's dangerous. And lo and behold, 2 seconds later, Ballard's been sent off. And I think the sheer reaction of Ballard, whether he knew he did something, but it looked like a player, when players are innocent, he reacted in such a way. He was really hurt by the red card, and whether he knew and he was just frustrated with himself, but he literally boots the water bottle as he goes off. He tries to plead with the ref. So for me, he looks like quite an honest character. I may be completely wrong, but the fact we haven't appealed it is a bit frustrating, but it is what it is, and we'll have to crack on now.
Yeah, that team that we spoke about and doing well last weekend has been dismantled, shall we say, again. But enough about the game on Tuesday. Something more Blackpool related before we move on to our giveaway or the iFollow giveaway, as we spoke about before, is the news that Colin Calderwood has been announced as Blackpool's new assistant head coach. Tom, you're shaking, nodding your head there, should I say. A positive step for the club, in your opinion?
For me, it's massive. I think I've either said Critchley, the fans may hate me for it, but I've given my reasons for it. I said Critchley even needs to go if we don't think he's the right man for the job, or he needs someone beside him who's going to give him the opportunity to become a good manager. And Calderwood, for me, is a name I haven't said in the past, but it can only be positive, and he's certainly a character that's built of stern stuff. So he's got his reputation in the past for being quite a stern manager as well. So he can be Critchley's number 2, and I think guide him to be a better manager and to be less vulnerable and be more streetwise, because I'll say it again, I don't think we'll survive League One the way we're going and where we're being outsmarted by teams, and there's no easy games in this league. And if we continue in the manner we are, it will fall down quite quickly. So maybe I'm being a bit dramatic, but it's certainly someone we definitely need.
Derek, obviously you spoke about watching. Did you say you watched Forest before, or?
Yeah, I've watched Derby and Forest, being two bigger local clubs, shall we say.
Do you know much, maybe seen much of Colin Calderwood's Forest side, or know much about him as a manager? Maybe you've got a bit of an insight for Blackpool fans?
Mentioned it earlier, he's a bit of a tough taskmaster, and maybe he didn't get the time warranted at Forest. I think the problem is with your so-called big clubs is every manager's on a very limited time, isn't it? Which is probably a bit different where Ben Robinson does like to give people an opportunity, and has done with the current manager, Jake Buxton, and that has in the past with many managers, Jimmy Floyd or, Rowlett and other people like that. He's given that opportunity, and he will allow them, further than maybe some of your so-called bigger clubs. I think Calderwood, like many a Forest manager, didn't get sufficient time to do what maybe he could have done in the long run. So I think with any new broom, you just got to give them a little bit of a reasonable amount of time before you start swapping and changing. You need some stability. And hopefully, Blackpool, I know you've been through your trials and tribulations financially and etc. Just hopefully that you can get some stability and move forward.
I think it's a great signing. Someone, a defender who's been there, played at international level, and can only be beneficial to the young group of players that Blackpool have at the disposal, bar maybe 2 or 3 players. But Tom, I was going to read through some of the comments here on Twitter. I know there's been lots on Facebook and whatnot, but obviously Seaside Podcast, John's put great signing and just what we need. Falco's Football said on paper a good appointment because Critchley is clearly struggling. Dan Salisbury, he's a great approach by the club. Everyone wants this project to be successful. The club have possibly been a little bit naive in the instigation of the culture change, and Colin Calderwood will be the experience we need in the coaching team. Good luck to all. There's plenty more comments, all of them positive, really. And again, just the news I think we needed after kind of a frustrating start to this season, Tom.
Yeah, it's come out of nowhere as well, isn't it? Like, it just sort of appeared on my timeline when I quickly had a quick look at work, and it was welcome news because I think Sadler realises that maybe he has made a mistake and he has reacted to it. I think, like I said in the past, Critchley on paper is a really clever appointment. I think Critchley's the one that's been slightly naive, and Ben and Sadler have potentially spoken amongst themselves and said we need to give Neil a helping hand and give the club some stability, and it can only be positive. It can. He'll bring organisation, and he'll bring just a bit of discipline in the right way to the club, and give something Critchley which he hasn't got, which is league experience. And you've seen us being outsmarted by Steve Evans and a few other managers, and it's really clear to see that we are being coped with. I think with the right guidance, we can see that philosophy come through and hopefully pick up 3 points starting from tomorrow. Sorry, Derek.
Fingers crossed that the Blackpool can pick up 3 points. But a comment here, Tom. Caldwell has been definitely brought in as a caretaker manager when Neil Critchley's potted if we lose tomorrow. I guess some people have seen the other side of this, that an experienced manager, coach who has been at Aston Villa, Newcastle, just to name some of the teams. Tom, would that be the case, or do you think that the chairman, Simon Sadler, has brought him in just to assist Neil Critchley? A tough one, I know, but I'm going to put you in another spot.
I hold my hands up the moment I saw Calder had been appointed. I thought he was our new manager. So for me, I posed the question in the group just to say, do you think Sadler's brought him in just in case he does lose his job, and it gives him someone who can hold the helm and do a reasonable job without having to fish around for other managers? I'd like to think he's there to support Critchley more than the cynical side, but it also wouldn't surprise me in the slightest if Critchley does go, if he did take over. So it's a shrewd appointment, and it's a clever appointment, because if it all does go wrong, he'll have reasoning to get rid of Critchley, and if it all goes right, we've got reason to say Caldwell's made a massive impact. So clever from the club, and I'm going to go with Critchley's going to succeed under him and give it a few more games and trust Sadler's appointment.
Definitely. Just before we move on, I'll read out what Neil Critchley and Colin Caldwell had to say in the press release from Blackpool. Neil Critchley said, "I'm pleased to welcome Colin to the club. Colin's experience and achievement in the game speaks for themselves. We feel he has the perfect qualities to both complement and enhance the existing staff we have in place here at Blackpool." And Colin went on to add in the press release that "I'm absolutely delighted to join Blackpool. I've seen a lot of this division now because I've been scouting for a team in League One. I'm looking forward to working with Neil and the rest of the staff. I'll be there to aid and assist in the best possible way and use my good experience of football to help everybody within the club." So again, positive words and positive in the chat. Matt Smith says, "Sadler's learning all the time as an owner. This is a great appointment. Shame we have to wait until January for some senior players who are solely missing." We'll leave that there, but as I said, positive news for Blackpool and all those concerned. Derek, moving on. Oh, the iFollow thing first. Right, before I forget that. Because I always forget something in the show. This is now the chance, Blackpool fans, if you want to win a free iFollow pass for tomorrow's game. I believe, Tom, you're kindly donating this prize, so a huge thank you to you. But the question here, I'll say it twice, the first time and second. You've got to get your comments in on the chat on the platform you're listening to, and after the show, we'll get in touch and announce the winner. But the question for the iFollow giveaway for Burton versus Blackpool is, who scored Blackpool's opener in their 3-0 home win over Burton in 2018? So the question again, who scored Blackpool's opener in their 3-0 victory over Burton Albion in 2018? Remember, get your answers in the chat and we'll announce the winner on social media later this evening. Derek, coming to you now. Burton Albion sit bottom of the league table as it stands after 9 games. Just won the one this season, drawing 3, losing 5. It might be a quick assessment, knowing you, but how do you assess Burton's start to the League One campaign?
Well, they always say that results speak for themselves, but mainly on this occasion, many other people for their clubs will probably say the same thing. It doesn't tell the full story. But just wind the clock back a little bit until the spring when we went into lockdown and we lost Nigel Clough, left the club to save the club money, basically. Then Jake came in. Jake was captain of the club, and as we all know, a well-travelled and long-serving defender. But unproven as a manager. And as I alluded to earlier, and Ben Robinson, the chairman, likes to give new managers the opportunity, and saw the chance to give Jake, to be the boss. I was really fearful at the end of last season because, no fans, no income, and a very small budget. What would this season bring? And then I was totally surprised, for want of better terminology, of the signings that we've been able to make during close season, early part of this season. We've got players on loan from Villa, we've got and other top clubs. We've also brought in the goalkeeper that was on loan, O'Hara. We signed him from Manchester United. We're talking about Burton Albion here, who team that is non-league and got 2,000 fans. So the funding, Ben has certainly supported the manager with funding, and I think we've got a very strong team. Surprisingly, attacking for what I thought Buxton being a very strong defender would look at defence first, and that's not belittling the defence, because we have brought in a couple of ex-Lincoln players, and Bostock's injured at the moment. We've got, as I said earlier, JJ in there, and also Hughes on loan from Leicester City. He has been phenomenal, Hughes. He really is a class defender. So yes, we do have a defending nucleus, and also Quinn just in front of them. But the attacking players we've got has really been a surprise. And for the team not to gel, because we've got a very good bunch of individuals, but they've not been gelling. The last couple of games, I think against Wimbledon, we could say that we deserved the win. And again, at Posh the other day, we could have said that 2-2 was fair, but we could have nicked a win again. So I think we have been a little bit unlucky, but we've not been a team. We've been a bit like the England squad at times. We've been a team of individuals rather than a good team. Hopefully that's now starting to gel. And Jake himself is probably finding out what his best team is, because as we all know, sometimes the best 11 players on the park are not necessarily the best team. So I think he's having a bit of mixing and matching. There's a couple of the young lads ex-academy been coming through, and they've been phenomenal. So he is getting that blend right, and I feel it is coming. I mean, there is any club, you've only got to go 3 or 4 games and the knives are out, and we have all this inquest. Myself personally said, let's get our quarter way through the season. We're not that far off now, but let's just see what's happening then. I don't think it's time to start panicking and let's change the manager, etc., because I don't think that is the right thing. Tomorrow, would it be a 6 point? Are we talking about relegation already? For either club, I don't really think so. But just you get 2 wins, and all of a sudden, you're halfway up the league, and you're knocking on the playoffs, and everything's rosy. But start getting towards Christmas, and then you start really having to have a look at what's really happening. That's my view. Tomorrow, Tom's mentioned that he thinks Blackpool will get it, and I think Burton will nick it. Who knows? We've had a series of 4-2 games, all that we've lost, and tomorrow I think could be similar, because we do have an attacking squad. We've just bought anything from the Wolves as well. Strong lad up front. We've got Hemings, who is a Burton lad that's been on his travels, played for Rangers, now come back to Burton-on-Trent, playing for the club. Looked a bit like he was a bit unfit, shall we say, at the start of the season, a bit rusty. But now he's got a bit of support from the guys around him, Akins and Ennis as well. He's banging goals, and I think it's now four goals or in the last 3 games, 4 games. Yep. So he's now really got, he's found his touch, and it could be another 4-2. In which way it's going to go tomorrow, then I have no idea.
Just a quick one back to you, Derek, before I go to Tom. Gareth asked how are Colin Daniel and Neil Erdley playing for the Brewers?
Well, Colin Daniel is a bit like a Marmite character, from what I've learned from the Burton fans anyway. I think he's one of our best crossers of the ball. I don't think he's one of the best defenders that I've ever seen. And I personally say that Erdley is very similar from what I've seen. They play down opposite flanks, and they've both got their attacking positives, but maybe defensively they're not as good as some of the more traditional fullbacks. But that can be some of the downside of having attacking wing backs. Personally, I like Daniel. I think he's a skillful player. I think he's one of the best crossers that we've had at the club, particularly from that position. Thirdly, I've not seen enough of him yet. He's picked up an injury. He might be fit for tomorrow. But I would say he's very similar to Colin Daniel, and I can't really give my full view on him yet because I've not seen enough of him.
No, I completely agree. But obviously, he played at Lincoln a lot last season, so he definitely knows this league and above, really, from his time at Blackpool. You briefly spoke before, Derek, about the results. 2 draws in the last 2 against Peterborough. Came one of them on Tuesday. Does that give you confidence as a fan going into this weekend's match?
Yes, I mean we know where they are, and I think all the posh fans, from what you saw on social media, were pretty much expecting a bit of a walkover. And we know in this league, no game's a walkover, whether it's this part of the season or whether it's the end of the season. So it's just too early to call out any result can go. It does give us confidence, mainly because we came back twice from going a goal behind. We do have this habit, and listening to yourselves earlier, maybe Blackpool have the same as well, of giving away stupid goals or stupid red cards and really making it an uphill task. I think if I look back, probably the last 3 or 4 games, second half we come out, we tend to go a goal behind within the first couple of minutes, and you can't come out. I don't know what we drink at half time, but it ain't tea. So we need to put these little stupid errors out, and maybe that's a little bit of needs to come from the manager a little bit more. Maybe he needs to get them a bit sharper when we come out for the second half. Maybe he needs to be a bit stronger with JJ in terms of going into tackles which either look red card tackles or are fully warranted. If you've got a bit of a reputation, then give the ref an opportunity. Tom said the ref only gets one opportunity. If he sees a big guy going in with studs up, what's he going to do? So, cut out these silly little errors and give us something to build on. We should have took more maybe from the posh, but that's life. If you're going to give goals away, give penalties away, you're on an uphill task.
Tom, it sounds very similar to what we've been witnessing this season, giving away silly goals, picking up red cards in key moments of games, and that's why kind of both teams are down towards the bottom of the League One table, aren't they?
Yeah, Derek said earlier that we're a team of individuals and we're not potentially a team at the moment until we find our best 11. I think we're exactly in the same boat. I think Critchley doesn't know his first 11 yet. We've signed 17 players and 4 or 5 players are not fit. So I'm intrigued to see what Blackpool will bring, because every game at the moment, because of red cards and because of injuries, we've got a new 11 on the pitch and they're not gelling as quickly as we would like. So, like you said, tomorrow is I say a massive game. It is very big, and it's one of those turning points again where he spoke about MK Dons and how big that win was. We couldn't build on it from on Tuesday, but we'll have to see how tomorrow goes. But it could be 4-4, could be 3-3, but I'm sure there will be goals because we're conceding too much at the moment. It sounds like Burton are as well. Gretterson probably will come in. He kind of has to, doesn't he? And Husband will probably start left back, so it might give us a bit more stability when he's not playing out of position. He's certainly not a centre back like we discussed against Swindon. Yeah, it's a tough one to call, and this early on in the season, like Derek said, a draw against Posh is something that most teams this season will dream of before the match, and to become out disappointed from potentially not beating them is pretty a strong message going into tomorrow's game, I suppose. So it's important we're on our A game if we're going to stop them wanting to win and make an amends for potentially drawing a game they should have won.
As Derek said before, is this a 6-pointer for you, Tom?
For me, it's, you call it a 6-pointer, the bottom 2 clubs. Yes, in football in terms, it is a 6-pointer, but for me, it's about, we need a lift at the club, don't we? We need that win, and MK Dons, the win was still a bit tainted in terms of we didn't play as well as we could have. And then we had it all again on Tuesday where fans are just really disappointed with the outcome of how we're playing at the moment. And I think I said on Tuesday, if we're in the position we were in, but we could see the philosophy coming through and we were scoring goals and it was quite exciting and we were just missing out because of a better team, I think fans will be in a much different position to what we're in. What we're finding at the moment, though, the football is diabolical and it's probably the worst Blackpool team we've had for a number of years now. And that's, me speaking the truth. We've been through some hard times, but at least we've had characters in the team which know how to defend or score goals. Your Nathan Delfonso's, Amon Angeles and Feeney's who know how to attack the ball and make opportunities, and at the moment that isn't clicking. So it may take 1 or 2 games more, and like I said previously, Calderwood could bring that in. So we're going to have to see what tomorrow brings. But for me, it's easy to say Blackpool should be beating teams like this, but we've just signed 17 players and got rid of 11 or 12, so no one knows what this Blackpool team's all about. So for me, 4 points need to come from Burton and Wigan in terms of stabilising our season and giving Critchley and the team the boost they need. I think 1 point out of it, or even 0, then the pressure is building. We're going into middle of November after the Cup game, next league games in November, and we've got 4 really difficult games, Oxford, Peterborough and a few others. So if we don't win in the next 5 or 6, then we're going to be in trouble, and we definitely aren't going to be banging on the door of the playoffs this season.
Interesting. No, interesting you say it's probably one of the worst Blackpool teams, but I'm sure it'll create a bit of a debate in the chat below. Coming back to you, Derek, whilst we talk about Burton. You talked there briefly about Nigel Clough stepping down due to financial implications. Were you sad to see him go? Because his record speaks for itself. Well, I say it does. 228 games, 78 wins, 141 draws, a 36.3 win ratio. It's not a bad stat, but do you think the financial implications, that the wording of that was a bit strange in your opinion?
Yeah, if I'm honest, I mean, maybe there's a little bit more to it than what he actually said. Maybe he thought he'd reached the end of the road with Burton. Maybe he thought there just wasn't enough in the bank to get us back into the Championship. I don't know. This is me talking, and I'm a fan. I don't know any more than this. Maybe it was just time to move on. I did see some sit just behind the dugout in the main stand, and some of Clough's body language last year, when we could go and watch football, it just seemed a little bit odd at times, like almost getting frustrated. Not so much with the players, but maybe overall, and maybe. I mean, was on the fact that when Forest changed manager this year, then it would be Cloughy going to Forest, because I don't think he will feel he's fulfilled his ambitions until he's actually managed the club that his dad did. So I was a bit surprised when he didn't get that opportunity this time, because a couple of years ago he was offered and decided not to go. I think Forest then got a new owner from Greece, and the club stabilised again. But but again, Nigel played the best football with the players he had in front of him. Sometimes people would say he was too defensive, we should have attacked more. And I said the Huddersfield game was an example of what sometimes how we played in the Championship. Man behind the ball and park the bus. And he is very much another Marmite character, that there is an element of Burton fans, probably in every club. You can't suit all the people all the time, but his record, just stands out for itself. And I was a fan of him, and I was disappointed to see him go. I think he did well at Derby. I think he did well at Burton. He did well at Sheffield United on very, very limited budget. Maybe given an opportunity of a big budget, who knows where he could take a club. So it'd be interesting to see where he comes out sometime this season. And I wish him all the best, and hopefully he gets the big opportunity that I think he deserves.
Do you think he accepted that the club potentially couldn't carry on paying his wages, and for the love of the club, he kind of did just decide to walk away at what probably was a good time for him to go, with fond memories, and he didn't carry on, and it becomes sort of a bitter relationship? Or do you think it was a case of he walked away because he couldn't be bothered anymore? For me, I'd like to think it's more the first one, but
I agree. I agree. I don't know, but I believe
it was a good chance to go, wasn't it?
It was a good opportunity to go. He was doing the right thing for the club. We're in crisis. I know some of the guys that work down there that got laid off, and because we just couldn't support them anymore. Some were furloughed, and it is, the club was in dire straits, and maybe he thought that was the most honourable thing to do at the time. And all the backroom staff went as well. So we've had to change, as we do most seasons, and maybe Blackpool do the same, because we're on a limited budget. We tend to lose, a third of a squad. We have to bring in a third of a squad as new signings, and then we have to take loan players in. So we're on this constant evolution every season. But this year we've also had to do the backroom staff. So all the backroom staff went as well with Nigel. And yes, that probably saved the club a few quid. And maybe that gave them enough funding in order to bring in some of these players from Lincoln and other clubs, and some of these players that I've frankly been surprised that we've brought in. Somebody said to me we'd be bottom of the league come October. I'd say yes, but I thought we'd be bottom of the league because we didn't have any potential. I think we're bottom of the league with potential, which will keep me going for another couple of months of the dark nights. And as I say, we'll see where we are at Christmas, and maybe the pictures are a lot rosier then.
Yeah, let's hope the pictures are brighter for both Blackpool and Burton in the upcoming weeks and months. Before we move on to talk about the managers and what they've said pre-match. Obviously, looking at stats from Burton's team, Hemings, as we spoke about before, is the top goal scorer in the league with 4 goals. Do you think he would be the man for Blackpool fans to watch out for? If not, do you think there's any that they should be looking out for tomorrow from those watching from the comforts of their own home?
Yeah, I mean, obviously he's just started scoring goals. Start of the season, we seemed to be playing with just one man up front. He wasn't really getting a lot of support. So, but now Jake's changed the system a little bit, so he's got more support either from Aikens. Aikens is unbelievable player. I think he's been with the club now best part of 10 years. He's played in virtually every position. We're even having the debate: has he ever played in goals? Such a fantastic. He'll play full back, wing back. He'll play midfield. He plays up front. When he plays up front, he tends to score goals. He takes the penalties. I'd even have it down even driving the team bus if he could. He's just such, and these sort of players don't come along very often, do they? These players that stick with one club for numbers of years. And Aikens will pop up with goals every now and again. And also we've got the lad in from Wolverhampton, Ennis as well. Very strong player. We've also got some skillful midfielders. When you look at Lawless, just having a look at who I think will be in the team tomorrow. You got Lawless. You got Vasilev from on loan from Aston Villa. There's some skillful players there. You got Charles Varnham that was up at Grimsby. He was banging them in for full fun last year, and I think he scored the goal of the season for Grimsby last year. Unfortunately, he's been injured a bit for us. He may be fit again tomorrow. Reading on the manager's comments of this evening, so obviously you always look for the number 9 and the main striker as your threat, but we could have threats from different areas. We don't tend to score many goals from corners. We tend to let them in quite frequently. At one point, we couldn't defend a corner, but it's very rare we score a goal from a corner. We might score one. I think Kane scored one the other week where Hemings, there was a bit of a goal mouth scramble after a corner and he tapped it in. But it's very rare anybody gets up and bangs one in, like a centre half or anything. But yes, there's some talented lads. Get it together and see what we can do tomorrow.
It really does sound like the team in the Northwest who can't seem to gel at the moment and put the ball in the back of the net. Obviously, pre-match press conference, I'm going to admit I couldn't find too much from Jake Buxton, but it's more about the players and players that are available. He put Neil Erdley trained on Friday, but only non-contact, but he will come into the squad for the game against Blackpool. I'm sure it'd be great for some of the staff to see him. He didn't say that bit, but Charles Vernon is also available and will be a threat against Blackpool, so he might have the opportunity this weekend. And Kieran Wallace is sidelined due to COVID. Is that symptoms, Derek, or is he been? I don't know if you know a bit more about.
I think it was somebody within the family.
Yeah.
I don't know all the detail, but I believe it's somebody involved in the family. I don't think Kieran's actually got it himself. I think Kieran was ex-Sheffield United, the same as Quinn.
Yeah.
But the other two, earlier I said before, picked up 1 or 2 injuries. It'd be nice to see him come back, because I always have a quid bet with me, one of the friends that I normally go to the football with, that players normally returning to play against their old club normally end up scoring a goal. So, or do something. So it'd be good to see him back in tomorrow. And then who else was the other one we were mentioning there? Sorry, I forgot who was who mentioned on the clip.
Oh, we'll go back on the
Vernon, a very skillful player, and he is a threat, Vernon. So if we could get him in and fit tomorrow, I think there'll be a bit of fighting for places in front.
Not interesting. Tom, we'll come and talk about Neil Critchley now and what he said pre-match. He said on Tuesday the lads responded brilliantly in tough circumstances. I know if we keep working together and improve on the little aspects, I believe we can change the results quickly. As a group, we can do more on the pitch. We are aware of our position. We want to improve, but only we can do that. Your initial thoughts to what Neil Critchley had to say?
I think we responded well when Ballard got sent off. When CJ came on, took probably our best player off in Kemp when he was probably affecting the game the most. And CJ came on, had 2 excellent chances. It's not one of the ones where you say he should have scored, but apart from Mitchell's shot as well, which I don't know what he did, to be honest with you, and collapsed to the floor when he had the chance to score. But it sounds rude, but I don't want to keep hearing the same old stuff. I don't want to hearing the same old snippets. At the end of the day, I need to see it change on the pitch, and then those comments are warranted. We all know where we are, and we'll see tomorrow if it is going to be a positive, directional, forward-thinking performance, and not not a team that just aren't a team. I have no doubt in my mind that the team care. When Ward scored against Crewe, again, not having the fans in, you heard the shouts, you heard the screams, and you heard sort of the players come together. So it's not like one of those ones where they walked away and there was no chemistry there. But for me, it's the lack of direction which is frustrating me the most. It's actually quite upsetting to watch when you're watching a team who you just think you're going to concede and you don't think you're going to score, and that's how I feel when I watch Blackpool at the moment. So, Critchley's learning, I understand that, but we need to see it change. It's basic football and basic mistakes. So let's see if his words are put into actions tomorrow.
Do you think, obviously it's going a little bit away from Critchley there, do you think the appointment of Calderwood will have an impact tomorrow, that they know, that players know that the new assistant head coach is watching and will be coming into, in some way, be the bad cop in the dressing room and will pick up on faults maybe more than Critchley?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, I'm not looking into the future here, but if the players are not doing what they're supposed to be doing, Calderwood could be the one in the change room that actually takes over and say, look, you know what your boss wants, why are you not doing it? I think he can only have a positive impact, and it's not like he's just come in late tonight, is it? He's probably been there all week. He's probably watched the lads. He's probably had contact with Sadler and probably Critchley. It's not one of these ones where he just turns up and says, "Hi, I'm Colin. I'm going to be your assistant manager." It doesn't work like that. So hopefully see a more organised performance tomorrow with, like I said, some direction moving forward. So for me, we can't lose tomorrow, but if it's a positive performance and we get a draw or a win, then it will change fans' perspective about what's coming in the next few games. But anything like Wimbledon, and then it's going to be another tough few days before we play Wigan again.
Definitely will be. We'll see if the appointment has any influence on the pitch. John Scott's got a comment in saying Virtue is several weeks away from starting training. That could be a good news for Blackpool fans. Again, some people got the lineups in, which we'll go through later on, and a few questions for Derek regarding a player that moved to Blackpool in the summer. Moving on to a different topic, we've met before. Only 5 matches have taken place between Blackpool and Burton. The first meeting was back in August 2015 when Blackpool hosted the Brewers. The match finished 2-1 to the visitors with, this is a tough name, by the way, I can't say it, Abdon Sayi El Kayati, scoring 2 second-half goals.
Yeah, what a hero he was. Yeah.
A hero that day, definitely. Scoring 2 goals for you, with Jack Redshaw scoring in the first half. Were you at that game, Derek?
I was, yeah. Just before that, El Kayati, I think it was a signing. He was a Dutch lad. I think he plays back over in the Netherlands now. I think he was one of Jimmy Floyd's signings. And when he first came on the pitch, he looked like a lad that never kicked a football before. You're thinking, well, there's still an outside chance of me getting in the team if El Kayati can get in. We gave him a run of 6 or 7 games, and all of a sudden he found his feet, and he was one of the most skillful players that we've had in the league he was playing at the time. Yeah, I do remember it, and he went on, he played really well for us, and we were sad to leave it. It's sad that he left us in the end. I think he followed Jimmy Floyd down to QPR, played for QPR in and out in the first season, and a bit like Jimmy Floyd ended up leaving the club, and he went back to the Netherlands, which I believe he's still playing. And he's still got a fondness for the club, and most of the fans have got a fondness for him. So, tricky little player, and could beat a player standing still. One of the few in modern football that can.
Interesting. Going back to we've met before, Burton have won 3 of the 5 meetings, with the latest being a 3. Well, no, it's not the latest, actually, a 0-0 draw last season, in the only game between the 2 sides. But one of the previous results was a 3-0 home win for Burton over Blackpool. Liam Boyce, Jamie Allen and Lucas Akins scoring at the Pirelli Stadium. Blackpool won the reverse fixture, the first meeting that season, by the same scoreline. Jordan Thompson, Joe Dudu, and a certain goal scorer, which if you knew the answer before, or to the question before, you would have got it right. So I'm not going to say it anyway, just in case people might scroll back before the show ends. So the first goal scorer is the winner of this competition. So if you get that in this section or the comments below, get that one in. And then obviously, as I said, last season, goalless draw in Staffordshire, with Curtis Tilt being sent off just before the hour mark for 2 yellow cards. brief there. I know not many meetings, so hopefully the two can and collect more over the years in the future. But players who play for both clubs, Ollie Sarkic is one of them, who you will know quite well. One question from Steve was, what's Derek's view on Oliver Sarkic?
The lad's got potential, but I question his commitment sometimes. I mentioned Colin Daniel, who's played for both clubs earlier, and it'd be interesting to hear your view on him, on Daniel. It does show flashes of brilliance, but then tends to go out of games and pretty much anonymous. I don't know whether that's because he gets marked out of games. Maybe he's not the most physical of players. But he had some really good games, but then he's just anonymous in some games.
So Tom, you've obviously seen him a few times this season. Your views on Sarkic? I think he's one player that has the potential. Whenever I've seen him play, when I've been working at Fleetwood, he's been that one player who seems to light up the game and bring his energy and skill into it. But your thoughts on Sarkic, Tom?
Clouded by some YouTube clips, I think, when we first signed him. Clearly a half decent player at Burton with some of the goals he scored, but Derek's hit the nail on the head. He played, he didn't really play on Tuesday, to be honest with you. He hardly touched the ball, and when he did or he lost it, he just had to jog back to his position, and when he came off, he wasn't really bothered. No body language, reeked a little bit, to be honest with you, but I'm not saying the lad's at fault. He may be low on confidence, he may be unfit, but from what I've seen so far, he isn't someone who I'd start in the team, and he's not someone that should be near the squad until maybe he proves himself in a cup game, or maybe he starts to put some endeavour in training, etc. But he's not someone that should be starting over Kemp or CJ or anyone like that at all on the wings, that's for sure.
I must admit, I missed the game on Tuesday, but I heard that Kemp had going back to Kemp had a good game, and it's been frustrating as a Blackpool fan, because when I think he came on against, I think it was a linking, it might have been the Swindon game, I thought, we've got a real player here who can be that influence. And when he came on in the home defeat the other week, he had a chance but didn't really connect with it. So again, a player who can really come into the side and be a kind of half guiding light in some respects, and that player can be maybe the difference in the final third.
Yeah, for me, I think CJ and Kemp need to start if they both can play on each wing. But they will cause some troubles together. I think it'll be really interesting to see them both if Critchley wants to play both of them there. But for me, I think you're right. I think he came on against, I might be wrong, but I think he came on against Plymouth. And he's just got that, the first time he touches the ball, he wants to move the ball forward. He wants to turn his body, wants to get into space. When he first touched the ball, so this kid's exciting. And then we haven't seen him since. And he was really positive on Tuesday, one of our shining lights. And every time he touched the ball, he wanted to make things happen, which is, I can't say that for the rest of the team. So he brought him off at a really weird time, Critchley, a time where we were growing into the game. CJ was a positive sub, and for me, probably should have started. I don't know if that's because of his fitness or the way he was on Saturday. Yeah. But they've both got to start tomorrow. I think Sully was so far out of the game, it's untrue. And I don't know what was in the water on Tuesday, but apart from the odd flash of brilliance or a good free kick from Sully for Medine, again, it's just the desperation, and that's why something needs to change in the performance soon.
Interesting. Moving on to another player, we've briefly spoken about him. It's Colin Daniel, the 32-year-old 5'9" defender or attacking fullback. Started off his career at Eastwood Town before moving to Crewe in 2007. Joined Blackpool in July 2016 before leaving 2 years later after playing over 80 games for the Seasiders. As I said, 8 goals in there as well. Not a bad return. Obviously, we didn't get to see much of him, Tom. I'll come to you, Derek, shortly. We've briefly spoke about him, haven't we? But a player that was, I must admit, we didn't really see him, did we? Due to maybe boycotting. But I say he's from scoring 8 goals in, say, 80 appearances from a defensive point of view. It's not a bad record, is it, Tom?
I really liked him. Like we said, we didn't see much of him. He was playing in tough times, but on the highlights or when we saw him, I think he's certainly a solid League One player, and it's kind of someone we're screaming out for now, to be honest with you. Someone that can change the game, or be someone you can rely on a bit more than players playing out of position. So only got positive things to say about him. We didn't really see enough of him to sort of judge, but he played enough games for us, and like you said, popped up with the odd good finish as well. So they've got themselves a good sign, and certainly some experience that you need when you're down there or mid-table. Someone that's going to add stability to your team. So yeah.
You kind of share that. I know I said we touched on it earlier, but
Yeah.
someone who's going to be quite assured at the back and pop up with the goal here and there.
Yeah, I think as we touched on before, he's very much an attacking defender, and it does give you another option going down the wing, and some excellent crosses. And he's been putting them in for Hemings, but Hemings has been pretty much on his own. But now he's getting some support from more players in the box. Then Daniel's crosses will come in, and they will turn into goals. If there is a weakness in his game, it is defending. And I think Brian Clough always said a defender's job, his first job, is to defend. So that's probably part of his game that can let him down. And he's got almost a very, I don't want to say lazy, but I mean a very relaxed style of running, shall we say. And some of the Burton fans do get on his back, and they're very critical of him. Personally, I like the guy. I think, overall, I'd have him in my team because he does offer something different, and he does offer another attacking dimension. Yes, he may lack in defence at times, but that's what you pay your centrals. Maybe that's worth taking the risk with him. So I'd have him in tomorrow, and he might pop up with a goal.
You never know, do you? Another fullback who scores his goals from set pieces or long-range efforts, Neil Erdley, joined Burton from Lincoln in August this summer after 3 years down at Sincilbank. Played at Northampton, Hibernian, later on at Birmingham, and then Blackpool in 2009 to 2013, where he played over 100 games, scoring scoring a lot of goals. Only scored 2 goals, one against Everton, I believe. I'm not quite sure where the other one came from. So if anyone in the chat knows, do leave that in the comments section on your social media platform. But Tom, another attacking fullback in his 30s. Someone joked and thought he was more towards his 40s. He's a player that seems to be around forever, hasn't he? He started really young at Oldham. I remember he was the player that falls over the Oldham keeper when Wes Houlihan goes around the keeper in the 2007 playoff games away. So he's been round a lot, and I'm sure he'll be a player that, if he is fit, will want to play against Blackpool tomorrow.
Yeah, suspect defender, but quality set piece taker. The free kick at Everton is class. I think the other goal was against Birmingham. I'm not sure, but I test my Blackpool knowledge there. I mean, it's someone that you want to get beyond, a bit like the MK Dons defence. You want to test him out a bit more, don't you? So he'll certainly be a good set piece taker if he does play and causes some problems that way. You said you weren't scoring a lot from set pieces. Well, we've conceded a few from set pieces, so be interesting to see how that one pans out tomorrow. But someone who will offer a lot in terms of set pieces defensively. I can't comment on how he's been playing. As Derek said, he's been injured, but I wouldn't want him still in our defence just in the position. He gave away a lot of needless free kicks, and he was more of a winger. I think sometimes he played in that position for Blackpool. So dangerous to set pieces and someone you need in your team, but defensively is a bit suspect.
Yeah, I agree with you from what I've seen, and I just feel Colin Daniel's a little bit similar in that mould. To have 2 of them playing, it's very much a risk. If we play Daniel one side tomorrow and Erdley the other, it does give us all those options going forward. But defensively, that does worry me from both players, from what I've seen.
Yeah, looking at some of the comments that are coming in, Colin Daniel is a midfielder and converted to a wing-back. I'm sure we can target him tomorrow. And Bison's also got a comment saying, if Daniel and Erdley play tomorrow, then I fancy our chances. And Tom, there's a few people in the comments section, especially on Facebook, who are agreeing with you in terms of when Neil Erdley's second goal for Blackpool came. Birmingham's there. And then Steve has also said at home in a 2-2 draw when Stephen Craney also scored. It does come to mind, to be fair, but I'll try and confirm that towards the end of the show. Looking at other players who have played for both, we've touched on Luke Varney in the past, the amount of times the teams he's played for in his career. We might have a few Luke Varney chats down the line, but again, another player late in his career, should we say, Tom, but again, it'd be great to see him, wouldn't it, if fans come back in next year, hopefully, that would be a player that Blackpool fans would love to see again, because he was great during the Premier League years. all year.
He's a top-notch footballer, regardless of who he's played for. His attitude is absolutely phenomenal, and he just loves to play football. I remember when Ipswich signed him, and watched a few highlights of him smiling, go mental when he scored, and scored an absolute worldie for us in the Premier League against Wolves as well, didn't he? So only got positive things to say about Luke Varney. He's an absolute workhorse as well. So credit to him for carrying on playing as long as he has and for as many teams as he has. So it's a credit to the game, and it's a credit to the club he sort of plays for. He gives it his all, and brilliant footballer in terms of what he puts in, and he scored some cracking goals for us as well. So yeah,
Derek, a 38-year-old, obviously joined in August this year on a free transfer, made 2 appearances from the bench. Are you surprised by that signing in terms of obviously maybe a financial point of view? It maybe doesn't fit into the mould of what the manager wants, but are you surprised about it? But on the other side, could be good in the dressing room.
Yeah, I think he's come more as in a coaching role. Obviously, he's in the twilight years of his career now. He was with us before. I think he scored very few goals for us when he was with us before. I think he did score the header when we were up at Barnsley, which drew 1-1 and essentially kept us up in the Championship the first year. So he wasn't a prolific scorer for Burton, but he's definitely a workhorse. He's somebody that you can put on even at the age of 38 when he has come on as sub, will keep their back three, back four busy, and take some of the pressure off your midfield and defence. Is a total professional. Anybody that's still playing at a reasonable level at 38 years of age and kept himself as fit as what he has done, then you've got to take your hat off to him. I think he's come more as a coaching role, and I think he will continue to come on and off the bench as the boss needs him. I can't see him starting very often, simply because we've already got a number of attacking options, and we're on a limited budget. So who would you rather have? He's proven he's going to get you the odd goal, and still now the defenders have got to keep more than one eye on him. So, yeah, by all means, I'm at the club. Yeah,
well, we're reaching towards the hour mark on this podcast. As each week, as I joke every week, I need to make it shorter than the 1 hour 15 that we had one time round. But again, great players who play for both clubs there. But looking at the score predictions, I've left a comment in the chat. I know some came in earlier on, so I'll scroll through the comments whilst I asked our two guests this evening. But Tom, if I was to ask you for a score prediction for this weekend's match, what would you go for, and who would your goal scorers be if you've got Blackpool to net one tomorrow?
Head says 1-1, heart says 2-1, so I'll go with my heart. I think if Kemp starts, he's going to nick a goal. And let's say if Gretterson starts, he scores from a corner. 2-1.
You always say a new signing comes in. Oh, Ballard's going to score. Or Gretterson might score. But again, if Burton have been leaking goals from some set pieces, then potentially that could be the case. Derek, I can see there you're thinking really hard about this question I'm going to ask you. But your score prediction for tomorrow's game?
I just think there'll be goals. From what I've seen of both teams, we're both prone to letting goals in. Maybe you've struggled at times to score goals. We have recently, but we were at least at the start of the season scoring more than we have been. We got 2 away at Posh, so I think there'll be goals. I think we're probably looking at something like a 3-2 or even a 4-2 again. In which direction, I honestly can't predict, because we've not been defending too well. Keeper O'Hara is now coming back to the best that he was last season. He is an Irish international goalkeeper, I'd say ex-Man United, so he is now back on form. I think there'll be a lot of goals. I'll go 3-2. I'll go 3-2 Burton into the mix. I think Hemings is in a purple vein of form now. He's got some support. I think we'll let a goal in from a corner, and we'll let a goal in the 46th minute.
Well, very precise that. I might get guests to do that more often.
Because we're shocking when we come out after half time. So must be the bother up.
It might be your brews that are your drinks that you're providing. Just going to read some of the score predictions from the chat. Again, it's great to have over 60 watching live on all 3 platforms. So again, a huge thank you for your continued support. And if you can and subscribe to all social media platforms on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook, and even Instagram. That would be a huge thank you. But Gareth's got his comments in, and he says Burton 0, Blackpool 3, Woodburn, Medine, and Kemp.
Okay.
Derek didn't like that one, to be fair.
Clean sheet as well. I don't
this
think
one,
so.
this one might cheer him up a little bit. Kieran Glover, he says Burton 1, Blackpool 0. Sorry to be negative, just his opinion. And Tom, you can understand. Kieran. Yeah, we like Kieran. Well, Derek likes Kieran. Tom, I can understand why Kieran's gone for that scoreline, because, like you said before, we're just not finding it's not clicking in the final third, and as we said, we're leaking goals quite a lot.
Yeah, as I said earlier, I think we expect to concede, and we're struggling to score. So when you said we're games away from potentially scoring a few goals, we'll have to see. But it just isn't good. We haven't got our sort of defensive line that we want. So if Burton do get one or two chances tomorrow, I've had no doubt in my mind that they know where the net is if they've put two past Peterborough. So there'll be goals tomorrow. If we can be reassured at the back, which I can't see with Ballard now being suspended, and if Gretson comes in, it's his first game in ages. So I just can't see it being 1-0 or I think, like I said, my head probably wants to say Burton are going to win tomorrow, because I can't see us getting that win anytime soon based on Tuesday and Saturday, but it has to change soon. So let's go over 2-1.
I'm going to put my neck on the line here, and I'll eat my hat if it doesn't happen. But I'm going to go for a 3-1 win to the Blackpool tomorrow. I'm not forced to do scores as long as a Blackpool player or a Burton defender's on the end of a cross to convert it in his own net. That'll do me. Paul seems to agree with me on that one. So a 3-1 victory. I'm guessing he's a Blackpool fan. If he's not, then he also says 3-1 to Burton. We'll go for a few more before we finish. There's loads here, to be fair. Steve says a 1-1 draw. AMAC, the drabbest of 0-0s. Love your enthusiasm there. Would you settle for that, Derek? Yeah?
Well, I would have done last week. When we went to Plymouth a couple of weeks ago, I said I'd settle for a drab 0-0 and come away with a point, because you just need to steady the ship at some point, don't you? And we picked up a couple of draws recently. So really the onus is on us tomorrow, because otherwise that gap starts to appear then between mid-table and the bottom, the relegation band. So a 0-0 would do us, but 3 points ideally.
Tom, does just going slightly away from what we're talking about, but when Derek says there the onus is on them, does that put a little bit of less pressure on Blackpool, or is the pressure still on Blackpool due to what they've spent and players that have come in?
Yeah, we're tainted because we've signed so many players, but the fans will always remember we've signed 17, but not got rid of the amount we have, isn't it? So they're at home, they need to win. We're away, we need to win. So the onus is on both sides to go out and have a good game of football. And I don't think we know how to be reassured, especially in our sort of ball possession, because we usually have much more possession, 55 to sort of 65% of the ball, and we seem to lose a lot of matches. So we need to do something with the ball when we've got it. And if they make things happen early doors, then we're going to struggle. And if we can keep the ball and create some early chances, and that header, for example, that Medine should have scored, that goes in, we could have won 2-3-0 against Wimbledon because they were poor. Same goes for tomorrow. If we get an early 1-2 goal lead, then we might see the Blackpool we want to see. So they bring the game to us. We hit them on the attack, on the counter, but we need to be decisive up front.
Interesting. Decisive isn't the word Lee would use for a 1-0 victory for Blackpool, and he apologises, Derek, for putting Blackpool in. Ray Gregson says a 2-1 win for Blackpool. Sorry, it froze me when it's the other way around. The turnaround begins tomorrow. Come on, you pool. Bison says a low-scoring game, a 1-1 draw. I'm fine to try and read some more comments if they've got them in. Interesting thing. John Scott says, I'm positive that Burton are a bogey side for us. 1-1 draw with Sarkic to score against his old side. And then someone...
It does happen, doesn't it? A player normally scores against his old side. So, it could be Sarkic. It could be one of the lads that used to play, that now play for Burton, that used to play for Blackpool. So I can see that happening. Yeah.
Some more comments coming in. Some more comments in here. Schubert Hill says same old 3-0 Burton. Phil Hornby agrees as well. 3-0. Brave prediction Someone said a brave prediction from me saying 3-1, but hey-ho. I'm trying to be positive. Steve, to be fair.
I'd be surprised if we keep a clean sheet. I really would. But I can't see us keeping a clean sheet because we do leak goals.
Mm-hmm. A few more before we finish off the show, because we, as I said, we're ready to start 1 hour 10. Isaac, he says 2-0 to Blackpool, up the mighty pool. And Andy Thrillful says whoever makes less mistakes will go on to win. A boring 1-0 as long as the 3 points come back to Bloomfield Road. So again, could be a scrappy 1-0 victory like it was just under 7 days ago. Against MK Dons. I'm sure Blackpool fans would take that. But again, listeners, watchers, if you've done this evening, a huge thank you for tuning in. It's been fantastic to give you an insight from Derek into Burton. And like I said, hopefully from our perspective that Blackpool can get back to winning ways after the disappointing result on Tuesday. But I just want to say a huge thanks to our guest, Tom, as usual. It's been great to have you on and have your thoughts on Blackpool and Burton this evening.
Thanks for having me on again.
No worries. I'm sure you're back next weekend. And also a big thanks to you, Derek, because I know you've postponed plans to drink your own beers with us this evening. So again, thank you. And it's been great to have an insight into Burton, as obviously we can't go to games and it gives Blackpool a chance to really have an insight into the opposition. So a huge thank you for that.
You're very welcome. Hopefully the return fixture, we can all get together up at Blackpool and have a beer together and enjoy the game as it should be done.
Yeah, exactly. Just a quick one before we finish. How's life coping watching Burton from the comfort of your own home?
Well, we're all getting a pat back after Tuesday's game because even the I follow didn't work successfully. So the FL Football League have said, we'll return your money. But it swings and roundabouts. You've got Plymouth away on a Tuesday night or something, or it was a Saturday this year for a change. It does have its benefit that you're able to watch your club when they're away, but it's nothing like going to a game, is it? It's not. It's all part of what Saturday is, isn't it? Your traditional get up, look forward to it. It's your weekend, isn't it? It's your weekend,
it certainly is. Hopefully we're in stadiums sooner rather than later. And Ray Gregson there just says, thanks, Derek. So
cheers,
as I said before, a huge thank you. Gareth says, cheer, guys, for the show. Like I said, Derek, all the best of the season, just not tomorrow after 5:30. My comment there applies. But
come on, the Brewers.
The Seasiders podcast will be live again tomorrow from 5:30 for the review of the game. So if you want to have your say on the match, whatever the result is, stay tuned on social media and you can join the guys on the show for then. And as I said, we'll be back next Friday for another Seasiders podcast Friday night preview. But if you haven't already, please subscribe to the Seasiders podcast YouTube channel so you don't miss any of the action this season. Also, don't forget to like and follow us on Twitter and Facebook for more comments. I've been your host, Sam Fielding, and I'll see you next Friday for another Friday night preview show.
Ali's already changed the world. Ali's already changed the world. A small town from the north of England with a great tradition. Change the world, change the world, change the world.